Hi, everybody. I'm Corey Miller, and this is Indie Author Hour, where we chat about anything having to do with being an indie author. My co-host here is Hardy LaBelle.
Good morning, everybody, or whatever time it is that you happen to be tuning in. I'm Hardy LaBelle. I am the author of the Video Game Careers series of career guides for aspiring video game developers.
I forgot to mention Hush. Yes, I've written books. my recent book right now is Hush. I write simply scandalous mystery thrillers. I left that out. It's the snow. I am totally excited about the snow, and I want to go outside and play. It's true. I'm going to put on all my snow gear, and I'm just waiting for it to stop snowing because it's actually still snowing and really windy.
That's funny.
Well, Fremont is not very far away, and they're having a blizzard warning, and they're just across the river, and they're having a blizzard warning.
Ooh, so wouldn't it also apply to you? Is it really that localized?
No, it really is that localized, which is really weird. So we have a winter storm warning where we are, and they have a blizzard warning. So yeah, it's really weird.
So what does it mean to have a blizzard warning? What does that mean?
Hunker down and don't go anywhere, essentially, because you won't be able to see anything, which is actually true for the winter storm warning where we are right now because of so much blowing snow. It really is difficult to see. My husband decided to venture out, though. We have a truck, so he decided to venture out to see what really is going on. So I'm eagerly awaiting that report. Is Fremont really having a blizzard right now? That's what I need to know, because the kids are going to know if they have school. They don't have school today.
Yeah, of course.
No day.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I'm excited. I've been ready for it since Saturday. I went and made sure we had stuff to make hot chocolate, marshmallows. I'm ready.
Little micro vacation, little staycation at home.
Oh, I love this. I love it. So what's like where you are?
It's typical Seattle weather. So it's here, I'll show you. Let's see if you can see. It's kind of sunny today. It's been raining. Nice. Yeah, it's nice outside. It's cold today. It's probably 65, something like that.
Oh, really? That's cold?
Yeah. For Seattle, yeah, that's cold.
The other day it was 40-something degrees and it was balmy here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my father-in-law is from Detroit. He's a Michiganer, and he'll walk around in a T-shirt while everyone in Seattle is, dressed in a full parka. Right. And he's like, I don't understand what's wrong with these people.
What are you doing? Yeah, well, 40 degrees is balmy, and you will find people in shorts.
Yeah. Well, it's all relative, isn't it? Yeah,
it's what you acclimate to.
Exactly. Yeah. 60 degrees is pretty cold in Washington terms. Like Washington State, 60 degrees is relatively cold, and it's not raining today, so that is good. Of course, it's a myth that it rains all the time in Washington. It rains all the time for about half the year, and the other half of the year is spectacular. The other half of the year is one of nature's greatest miracles. It's sunny and green and verdant and wonderful, and then kind of late fall through the winter, it gets rainy and overcast, and then come the springtime, the sun blazes through, and it's really, just a miraculous place to be. But you gotta prepare yourself for that long winter of no sunshine, lots of rain.
See, I think the rain would get to me more than the fact that we have snow. I like rain occasionally, but if it was a constant, that was what my winter was rain. I don't think I'd enjoy that very much. I don't think I'd like that. I'd be sad.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in New England, or at least part of the time that I was growing up, I was in New England, and so I'm quite used to the overcast weather. I used to love, overcast rainy days in Boston, where I went to school. Just love that. So it doesn't bother me unless it goes on unrelentingly for months at a time. Then it can really wear on my spirit, but otherwise I like it.
Well, that's what I mean. Months at a time, I wouldn't care for that. That would bother me. But I think even winter, if we had a ton of snow all winter long, I don't know that I would care for that either, as much as I love snow. I'm not sure, but we've never really had that. We don't always get a ton of snow. We had some winters that were just really boring because it was cold and no snow. And that's just wrong. You can't have cold and no snow. That's just wrong. Absolutely wrong.
If you say so, man. Snow is, I don't
That's
know what it
funny.
is. I mean, I grew up in New England, so I didn't used to be worried about snow for whatever reason. Now that I'm a Pacific, live over in the Pacific Northwest, snow really freaks me out. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because I'm worried about the cars more than I ever was, or I'm worried about the kids, or I don't know what it is. But snow around here, I guess in New England, I am confident that and probably where you are too, people understand what to do in a snowy situation. And people understand how to handle snow, how to handle themselves in snow, what to do. Around here, as soon as you start to get snow, people start dying. People are like, let's go climb on the mountain. Oh, they all died. Oh, let's go driving in the snow. Oh, they got stuck in the snow and starved to death. I mean, it's absurd. Right. And so you know how it is. It's kind of like, I guess it just puts me on edge around here. Yeah. Driving in snow it's a skill. You have to learn how to kind of handle your vehicle in the snow. Yeah, not around here. They forget, people in the Pacific Northwest forget how to drive in the rain. If it's been sunny all summer, suddenly it starts raining. It's like, you see fender benders and accidents all over the place. Yes. Come on.
So the same thing happens in winter here. So when we get our first snowfall, people are being stupid, But after that, everybody remembers, oh yeah, this is how you do this, And so then it's no big deal. So my husband going out right now in the truck to go check things out, not really a big deal. He knows what he's doing. So I'm okay with that. I even told him, I said, take some pictures. I want to see what's going on.
Yeah, sure.
I won't go out and drive in it. I don't like to drive in the snow. I like playing it, but not driving it. But he's fine with it, and he does great. And, I'd be sliding all over the place.
I don't know that I like it, but I have done a lot of snow driving in my day. Because I went to school, I grew up I went to high school anyway in Providence, Rhode Island. And I went to school in Boston. And so, school meaning college in Boston. So, so I ended up driving, kind of up and down the New England corridor a lot. And then ultimately I moved to New York. So that whole East Coast sort of slipping up and down that the main corridor there in New England, done that a lot in heavy snow and sleet and freezing rain and black ice and all that stuff. I mean, I've done all that stuff. So yes, I have had some time driving through mucky conditions.
See, I've done that, and that's why I don't like doing it. And now I just avoid it.
Yeah, I can't.
I don't have to go out. If I don't have to go out, I won't go out. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, well, sure, of course, yeah. And you're even more reliant on everyone else around you doing the right thing. When that's the case, you have to kind of anyway, blah blah blah, whatever. So
that's the weather. That's the big report, everybody. Weather.
There's weather in America.
There's weather
in a couple of different places,
and some of it involves white fluffy stuff.
At this point, anyone who is or would ever listen to the podcast has probably just walked away thinking, I can't imagine why I tuned into this.
But we're authors talk about stuff. This informs my writing, because now when I go to sit down and write, guess what's going to be prominent in there? Snow.
It's going to be snow.
Suddenly the weather changed and there's going to be piles and piles of snow. So all this stuff informs your writing. See, I can bring it right back around. It's not off topic at all.
Well done. That's good. Yeah, I have to write a scene describing the skills that it requires to drive in snow. Good stuff.
Right. Well, you say that, but I actually will. Like, what if you had a motorcycle and you were driving a motorcycle because you had to, because it was your only means of transportation, and you had to drive it in this? Then what? So yeah, and one of my characters has a motorcycle. So it's entirely possible that I would use that. It's entirely possible. You're like, okay.
No, it's not that. It's not that. I'm just questioning the life choice where your motorcycle is your only mode of transportation. That right there, I would say, maybe you need to rethink some of the fundamental life choice.
He's sort of kind of a drifter, ex-military guy. That's his background.
No, I understand. Wouldn't you? If I was going to live off a Harley, I think I'd live in places where that was not going to be a problem. You know,
right. Well, he does,
Arizona,
actually.
New Mexico, California, Southern California.
He
That seems like the
generally
kind of places.
does. Yeah, he generally does. It's just that he's in Nebraska because he's connected. His family's from Nebraska, and Des is in Nebraska, so that's why he's kind of here right now. So yeah,
I see.
He
Gotcha.
doesn't actually live there in Nebraska. He travels.
Gotcha.
Sort of a wanderer.
And he's stuck in the snow.
And right now, right after he's stuck in the snow, and that's just, I don't know if I'll use that, but I might. Is the point? Because
it kicks off a great romantic scene. Perfect romance scene right there.
It could. I should do that. I should definitely.
Your protagonists caught together. Yes, to win. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Bringing it back to the whole writing process.
See?
Well done, Corey Miller. Way to say
That's what we do here at Indie Author Hour. We talk about it all. All right. So thank you for getting me a blurb for my Facebook ad. I have not used it yet, but I appreciate that you did that. I'm going to use it when I do the next ad, or at least some portion of it for the next ad.
So you didn't just roll out a new ad right away?
No, because I'm looking at how much money I'm spending on ads, and so I decided I would wait. I want to do some sort of ad that's closer to when I launch the next short stories and then the book, North Downing. So I'm trying to really get my ad stuff to make more sense and be more effective, because it just isn't. I mean, that's just the reality of it. The stuff I've done has not been effective. And so maybe with the feedback you gave me, maybe I'll see better results with the Facebook ad.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, if I can help dial it in for you, I certainly would be happy to do that. When you say it's not effective, what do you mean? What are effective in what way?
Well, when I was trying to target signups specifically to build my email list, barely anything. I might get 1 or 2 or 3. It didn't grow hardly at all. And then when I switched and experimented with like a buy now type thing, I can't remember what button I used because it wasn't buy now, but it was something that would get them to do that. That didn't do anything but one website click, and that's it in the time that I tried that. So something's not working. And so the ads that I did before actually apparently worked a little because I got some attention, but that second one that I did that we went over last week, clearly nothing. Maybe I did scare them with the ad image. I don't know. I don't think it was scary. I thought it evoked emotion, and that was good. But I'm going to tweak it and go with that one with your suggestions, and then look at it again and see what happens. Like I said, I want to push something a little bit different, so I'll do it around the release of the 2 books.
Well, for what it's worth, I would recommend thinking about it this way. I'm a member of a couple of Facebook groups that deal with exactly this topic of dialing in your Facebook advertising and how to advertise for your book series or how to advertise for book your list growth and stuff. And it's going to take time and money to get the solution dialed in. No one ever creates an ad, kind of first time and gets the targeting correct, gets the creative correct, gets it all dialed in so that it is, highly cost effective from the very start. What my own experience, I created a bunch of ads. I spent probably $500, over time, starting a bunch of different ads with different creative content, with different targeting options, when I was trying to target different groups. And, some I would get, I'd get a little bit of reaction to, some I'd get, less reaction to. And it took me weeks of trying new, targeting different groups or targeting different keywords before I apologize, everybody. I still am trying to get rid of this cough, which is, oh no, I lost my, hopefully this doesn't jack my sound. Can you hear me?
Yep.
You can hear me okay?
Yep.
Oh, thank goodness, man. When I accidentally wang into the earphones, it jacks it up. In any case, so it took me weeks to continue to tweak the placement stuff before I finally got kind of some groups that worked, some targeting where I started to see my costs drop down, and I started to see the number of placements go up. And then even over time, once I finally settled on some stuff where I was like, okay, this formula seems to be working. Then I even did some A/B testing. I would take an ad and I would change the content, or I would take the same ad, but I would change the marketing, the placement options, and I would sort of look and see, okay, the first ad is doing about this good, but the new one seems to be doing even better because of either the creative difference or the placement options. Until finally, I actually, kind of hit on some strategies, some placement strategies and combinations of creative content where I just saw I just saw a big jump. I saw, right away, first day, I saw a bunch of clicks and the cost dropped way down below $1 per person. And that's kind of where it hovers now, is I'm paying anywhere between 20 and 30 cents, per click, I guess. And pretty consistently. And because I spent all that time fiddling with the knobs and tweaking stuff around and things like that, I've been able to hit the gas a little bit. Like I said, okay, here is an ad, a set of creative content coupled with, placement parameters for the Facebook advertising that seems to work. So I started ramping up the spend. I started to, it started with $5, and then I started with $2, and then I pushed it up to $4, $4.50 or $5 or whatever, and then up to 10 and up to 20. And that's why I'm now at 890 subscribers on my email list. So I'm, closing in on 1,000, which is my goal. Mm-hmm. I want more, of course, but my goal with the list building stuff is to try to race up to 1,000, and then I'm going to dial the spend back, and I'm going to retool my funnel so that it's more about marketing the books and selling them rather than marketing to give them away for free for list building purposes. So I'm going to, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to retool the.
Oh, where'd you go?
Funnel, at that point.
We may have had an internet issue. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, you sort of blipped out for a minute there.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So I don't think I think I've got a few things going on. I don't think I have the right creative element yet. So I think I'm close. So I've got the one I'm going to work with and do the tweaks that you suggested, and then tweak the content a little bit. But then the other thing is, I'm not sure if I'm doing the right targeting. Oh, you're audio only now. Not sure if I'm doing the right targeting.
All right, Corey, hang on one second. Hang on, Corey, hang on 1 second, okay? I'm going to just put you on mute.
Okay, I'm going to pause the recording.
All right, pause the recording.
Okay, so I think my other issue is targeting. I don't know that I'm targeting quite right. I don't think I've honed that at this point. So I think you mentioned before that you want to be somewhere like 200,000 or less. Is that right? What did you tell? This is like weeks and weeks ago when we were talking about Mark Dawson and Facebook ads and what he recommended for target, like the number.
Oh, well, honestly, Mark Dawson, when he's talking about kind of a potential audience size, if he's trying to key off of certain profile stuff or keywords or something like that, he prefers to have an audience of about 1 million to 2 million people, 1.5 million, 2 million people. If it starts to get bigger than that, and this is just anecdotal, but if it starts to get bigger than that, I've kind of observed that he'll go back into his search terms and try to narrow it down even more. Because if your audience gets, too gigantically big, it probably means that you're not targeting, as effectively as you could be. So personally, I I prefer to have, my audience size be, 2 million people or less as far as the kind of people that I'm trying to reach for targeting parameters. If it comes back and says, oh, okay, based on the parameters that you've picked, your audience pool would be roughly 10 million people, I know I'm not doing something right. I'm not being specific enough, or I'm not limiting it, the correct way. So, you can have, and I have anecdotally heard about authors who have had success with much narrower targeting than that. So there are people who said, "Oh, my audience size is only 400,000 people," because they're very tightly parameterized, if you will, tightly constrained, and they still manage to get a lot of conversions on their advertising. So it kind of the way that the rule of thumb that I use, just whatever, I've never really said it out loud, but is it depends on who in my mind I think I'm going after. If I am looking for a broader category of people that I want to reach with the advertising, then I want to make it broad enough so that it reaches, as many people as I can. I want it to be inclusive, but I really don't want it to go over 2 million people, because at that point I may feel it may be too broad. It may be too generalized. It may just be, everybody in North America. Well, not North America, but it may be so broad that I'm not doing enough targeting. If I'm trying to be, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I thought it was the other way, because I thought when we were talking about it before, at one point I was being too broad. And so then we talked about it, and I thought you said, like 200,000 might be a good mark. And then I brought it down to that. And so now I need, and that's not working very effectively. So I need maybe more than 200,000, maybe not quite 1 million, somewhere in there for my number.
Well, the reverse is also true. So if I'm going big, I don't want it to be too big. If I'm going small, I also don't want it to be too small. So, at one point I was specifically trying to target, let me see, what was it? I was trying to target guidance counselors. I was thinking, maybe if I can reach guidance counselors, people who are talking to kids about career education, I could, do some targeting that way, and they might find it interesting to have a resource to educate themselves about, a path in game development, and it would be interesting for them to be able to point kids in that direction. And what I came back with was an audience of, I think, 45,000 people or something like that, based on the parameters. You're a technology early adopter, or you self-identify as a gamer, and you're a guidance counselor, or something like that. It came back with, well, we can only, reliably identify about 45,000 people on Facebook, based on those parameters. And I was like, okay, 45,000. Let's see what happens. Let's hit the button and go for it, because I was trying to hit a very specific targeting component. And what ended up happening was the ad ran for 3-4 days, and then I got one click that cost me $4.35 or something like that. Because it was like, hey, sorry, yes, you did reach that one person, but that one person, it was so specific that it wasn't giving me the volume, to make it worthwhile. So if if I was trying to target those people for sales, anyway, sorry, let me just finish the thought. So if you're going for a small audience, make sure you don't go too small. And if you're going for a big audience, like everybody in North America who likes Halo, for example, I find it's not effective to make it too big. Everybody in North America who likes Halo, too big. Everybody in North America who likes the Halo games that I worked on specifically, and also has an interest in video game development, is a much, much more reasonable audience. Everybody who likes Halo, everybody who likes the Halo games I worked on, everybody who likes the Halo games that I worked on, and is interested in video game development is right about where I want to be. Those are the people I want to talk to. They know my work,
Mm-hmm.
they respect what I've done, and they're interested in the topic that I want to talk about. And so it goes from 15 million down to 10 million down to 2 million. Boom, there you go.
Well,
Does that
here's
make
what I
sense?
did. That makes sense. Here, I think one thing might be that I had the audience, when I've done this in the past with the other Facebook ads, I think maybe I was too small. The 200,000 was too small. I have played with the target a little bit. Like let's, for example, say I pick Janet Ivanovich, which I've done before. So I want to target people who enjoy reading Janet Ivanovich's books. And that gives me a little over, I don't know, 800,000 people or something. That's what that does. But then I narrow it a little bit and say, okay, they like her books and they read books, fiction books on e-readers, something like that, because I'm trying to get those people. Do you think that that's enough of a target, like narrowing, to say the e-reader part, or should I be trying something else? Just books in general, fiction, mystery fiction in general, because I'm picking mystery fiction, obviously. So when I'm targeting, and that's what she writes. She and I write the same stuff. It's mystery thriller type stuff.
I would have to see what those numbers are. I'd really have to look at them. It's interesting. There's also some hit and miss that happens too. Like, for example, I have personally noticed when it comes to targeting Facebook ads that sometimes stuff that seems like Facebook ought to know, it doesn't necessarily know. For example, if you came back and said, well, I targeted Janet Ivanovich and I'm only coming up with, I don't know, whatever you said. You just picked the number out of the air, but let's say it was
like she has about 800,000 people following her. And then I tried to narrow it down a little bit to get a little more specific.
Yeah.
When I made the ad.
That sounds low to me. That sounds weirdly low, considering that she's a best-selling, writer. And
yeah, I think that's what the number was, though.
Yeah, no, I'm not doubting.
That's Facebook. Not everybody's on Facebook.
Right. Yeah, not everybody's on Facebook, and not everybody necessarily, has liked her books on Facebook, even though they might be readers. So let's just talk about this as a hypothetical. If you said, well, I picked Janet Ivanovich as, the base category, and you're only showing 800,000 people, I'd say, okay, I don't think that's going to necessarily give you a good result. This would be a case where you're trying to go big, right? You want a bunch of people who like mysteries and, like an author that's similar to what you like. If you open the spigots at that point and say, all right, give me a big audience, because that's what we're going for. We're not going for, people in Nebraska who, read mystery thrillers on ebook devices, and they're between the ages of, 40 and 75 or something like that. That's a very, very small audience of people who might be interested, or know you personally or whatever, right? So if we go big, if we say Janet Ivanovich, and e-readers, and we're coming up with 800,000 people, I'd have to stop and say, I don't know if Janet Ivanovich,
not big enough.
It's not big enough. I wouldn't say that's big enough. I would go, I'd pick a different approach. I would pick some other big.
I can't do another author necessarily, because I've played with different authors. And I say that only because, the reason I picked Janet Ivanovich is because she has a female protagonist. I have a female protagonist. So I'm being very specific about that, and saying, if you like her, you're going to like what I write. I tried going after like Lee Child readers. That did not work well. And I don't know if it's because maybe his readers are a lot of males versus females. I don't know. But that didn't yield a great result. So the authors who have huge numbers on Facebook that write mystery thrillers that I've discovered so far happen to be males. And so that's where I'm not sure I'm going to get the crossover, because I didn't. I tried the Lee Child thing, and I got like one click. And that one click, by the way, was a woman, but I got one click, and no males.
Yeah,
even really looking at it.
Having read,
and it could be the cover.
Having read a lot of Lee Child myself, it's interesting because Mark Dawson, in his advertising, talks about a lot that he tries to referenced Lee Child a lot. And he actually gets a non-trivial amount of kind of hate mail or people that, respond to his ads negatively, put out negative comments, because they basically, a lot of people basically say, how dare you compare your stuff to Lee Child? How dare you say that your stuff is similar to him in any way? Or if you say, if you like Lee Child, you might like my books. People get outraged because Lee Child stuff is so weird. I mean, and I don't mean weird like outre. What I mean is it's very, very distinct. It's very, very unique. So unless you're certain that your stuff is like his.
That's why I didn't know. That's why I didn't want to use it.
Yeah.
And that's why I was focusing on Janet Ivanovich, but then I couldn't do Marcia Muller, Patricia Cornwell. These people, Patricia Cornwell maybe, but they don't have the same following on Facebook that these male authors do. That's just a fact. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
And because I've done the numbers to see that. They don't. And so there is that thing of, I can't, using Lee Child, that's how I feel. It's like, I know my stuff isn't exactly like this guy's, but I'm trying to get a broader audience. So maybe what I need to do is, for the broader audience, the first targeting needs to be people who read mystery thrillers. Because that would probably be a huge number if I start there.
I'm certain it's gigantic.
Huge number there. And then as I narrow it, what would you suggest I narrow it down to? Should I then narrow it to like an author, or should I narrow it to e-reader? Go mystery thrillers, e-reader.
I don't know. The e-reader thing is really dicey. I don't know. I wouldn't recommend messing with the e-reader thing right off the bat. I tried including e-reader as a search parameter or search criteria for some of my advertising early on, and it basically seemed to jack it up a lot. And the reason for that, I don't exactly know. I think it's because there is a kind of person out there, and this is just pure supposition on my part. There's no facts to back this up, but I think there's a kind of person out there who goes, I love Kindles. Kindles are cool, right? That's not necessarily the person that you want to market to, right? There are a lot of people who own Kindles who don't brag about owning a Kindle, right? They don't go around saying, hey, Kindles are cool. And to be frank, if someone was to ask me, are Kindles...
I do it all the time.
You do not. You are lying. You're lying. I love my Kindle, but if you were to ask me if it was cool, I would say no, it's not cool. It's a primitive tablet device as compared to
device.
Yeah, and it's compared to an iPad, it's terrible. I mean, you can't use it for games. It doesn't have any of the good stuff on it like an iPad has. It's not good for video. So yes, I love my Kindle for what I use it for, but I don't go around bragging about the fact that I have a Kindle. Okay. So that kind of person on Facebook, I personally happen to think is not necessarily the kind of person that you want to use when you're trying to roll your fiction out there. I would hesitate to use that as one of your limiting parameters. I would be
I need a second thing to funnel down to.
No, I get that.
I need something specific to come down to.
Yeah, I get that. You might consider doing some more research on female protagonists. You might consider thinking a little bit more about are there other strong female protagonists that might be yes, Joel, we are talking about putting ads on Facebook, by the way. Joe Wilson TV just joined us. Anyway, like for example, I don't know a thing about the series, but I do know that I have seen it floating around. There's some series with a woman named Jet. She's a ex-Israeli Mossad Secret Service, badass chick who does stuff. I don't know. She's some kind of thriller stuff. And I know that that's a very popular series, and popular enough so that Kindle Worlds actually did a spinoff on Jet, because I've seen this advertised on Twitter a lot of times. People are doing Kindle Worlds versions, Kindle Worlds stories about Jet. And for anyone who isn't necessarily familiar with the way Kindle Worlds works is if you are an author and you lay out some, fictional construct that people like. For example, I don't know, let's say you wrote Battlestar Galactica. The new version of Battlestar Galactica. Pretend you were the author, who was responsible for that. You could submit that to Kindle Worlds and say, here are the canonical books. Here are the books that I wrote that are canon, that sort of lay out the fundamentals of the world. And anyone who wants to can come along, and as long as they follow the rules of the universe that I spell out, they can publish their book as a Kindle Worlds kind of, I want to add. It's like it's a framework for fan fiction, put it that way. Anyways, this one protagonist, Jet, I've seen a bunch of people come along and say, ooh, I wrote a Jet book in the Kindle Worlds kind of tradition. I wrote, my own Jet thing. And they're advertising them, excuse me, I apologize, for sale. So I would do some more research on female protagonists. Also, honestly, you might consider looking at TV shows that people like that have strong female protagonists. You might consider, Blacklist fans or what else has interesting strong women characters. I don't know. A Blacklist would be one.
That's a good idea.
That's a way of finding people that are potentially interested as well.
Right. That guy, the person who wrote the Jet, when I was looking it up while you were talking,
good.
Russell Blake.
Okay, sure, so
Russell Blake. I'll look into that because that would help me narrow.
Absolutely.
But I'll start real big with mystery thriller. That'll be my big thing, and just reverse from there and see what happens, and still try and keep it close to 1 million and see what happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, I if I was more fastidious as a person, I probably would have kept very careful track of exactly every single, set of search parameters that I used, every single, combination of creative that I used and all that stuff. I would have tracked it all.
You didn't.
Really? Don't be surprised.
I'm surprised. I am sort of keeping track of that.
See, the funny thing is, I'm the kind of person, and this is actually, it's interesting you should say that because, like, what I'm looking for is the correct answer, not necessarily a record of all the wrong answers. And so, so for me, I'm like, try it, did it work? No. Try it, did it work? No. Try it, did it work? Yes. Okay, boom, we got it. I don't care what I tried that didn't work. I don't need a record of that because I'm not going to do it again. And now that I have the thing that works, I'm going to work off of that and try to make it better, And there's definitely people out there, perhaps yourself included, who will very carefully kind of keep a record of all that stuff. But for me, the overhead of keeping track of all the things that didn't work, just like, I don't know, I just don't find it to necessarily be that valuable because once I find the solution that does work, then I'm just going to hit the gas. So I don't know. I mean, as long as I'm not duplicating, not making the same mistakes over and over again, which I'm pretty confident I'm not because I think a lot about what I'm doing, as I'm doing it, and I think about, the answers. I don't really track the failures as carefully as I look at the successes. So anyway, this is just a full disclosure on my process kind of thing, more than you should. I don't
track it that closely, but I think one of the reasons why I do track it a little bit is because I'm not sure what exactly of those things is working versus not working. I haven't been able to figure that out. And so if I say, okay, well, this ad had the age range was 18 to 75 or 65, 18 to 65. This ad was 25 to 65, but everything else was the same. Then I would be able to do that and say, okay, well, rule this one out, not this one. But I didn't do it that way from the very beginning. And so there were lots of elements that were different between these different ads. And I didn't know what was working, what's not working on any of them. And that's why I'm at the frustration point that I'm at now is that I don't know what's working, what's not working. And it just seems like none of it's working. That's how it looks now. And so I'm spending money, but I'm not really getting any result. And I hate that. We all know I don't like to spend money. I'm frugal. So I don't like that. I want to get results faster than that I know are working so I can start to hone in and make it really effective. I haven't been able to do that yet. So with what I have now, I'll try it and I'll be more careful about what elements are changed or not changed from ad to ad. and really track it better. Because I haven't been tracking it that great, I don't think. But in any case, it's not working. That's the end result for me. It's not working. If you've been able to raise your list over 800 people, and I've maybe acquired 5 people, that's really sad. And I'm not even exaggerating. That's about the number probably.
Yeah, well, I'm thrilled with the fact that it's growing. I'm thrilled with the fact that the list is growing, and I was kind of hoping that I was gonna. I tried an experiment. The last time we talked, I was pleased to say I kind of crossed the 700 barrier. So I thought, I'm going to try something. I'm actually going to hit the gas on the spend and try to see if I could cross the 1,000 barrier by the time we talk today, just to sort of be like, yeah, I hit this goal. But anyway, it's getting close. It's getting there. Yeah, well, so can Facebook ads. So Joe is asking,
he's saying, have you run 2 ads as tests with different demos? I am so dizzy from trying to do Facebook ads that I can't tell you concretely without my notes in front of me what I've done. But I have notes.
What does that mean?
I can tell you that.
What does that mean, demos, Joe? I don't know what that means.
I think he's probably talking about.
Demographics.
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, I've done it.
Yes, I've used the same ad with 2 different sets of demographics. I've used the same demographics with 2 different sets of ads. Yes, absolutely.
See, Hardy's got this pretty much down. He's figured it out, and he focuses on nonfiction. By the way, I'm focusing on fiction, and I'm having a really challenging time getting to the right target. And the right demographic, last week we talked about my image because I finally had an ad that I did that I thought was good and I liked, and then apparently it wasn't good either. I had Hardy look at it, and Hardy gave me feedback, and some other people in the group gave me feedback. It wasn't very good.
Well, so where else did you get that feedback? Who else was looking at it? Because
No. Last week, some of the people in the chat were giving me suggestions too on that ad because they were looking at it.
You might consider posting. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say,
posting.
You might seriously consider, I'm flattered that you think.
Oh, you would post it in the Facebook. You're going to say post it in the Facebook group. I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I can handle the feedback. I worked so hard on that. I don't care what someone says when I write my books. You can review it and trash it, and I won't even be bothered. Working on these Facebook ads, I'm really trying. I'm not sure I can handle the feedback. Seriously.
Oh my God, that is a crack up. It's just an ad. You can't. Okay.
It's not just an ad. It's the blurb. It's and I really have to work hard on those things. It doesn't come easily to me to do those things. So that's why I haven't posted anything in the groups, because I know they'll just rip it to shreds. I don't know that. That's just what I think. That's my fear right there, is that they'll rip it to shreds. But I'm going to run with what you told me, because you gave me great feedback. And so I'm going to try that, what we did last week. And then this targeting stuff helps. So I'll try that for the next set. And I know I need to do it consistently, but I'm not at the point where I have something that even remotely works to do it consistently. So I'm just like, I need to get it narrowed down more before I keep spending money on this, because that just makes me crazy. Like I said, I don't like to do that. I like to know that what I'm doing is going to work or will be effective for me. It's kind of like in my other business, I learned very early that any advertising I did that was print wouldn't work for my business, and it never did. The only advertising that worked for my existing business is radio, actually. And then, of course, the word of mouth stuff. But I mean, actual paid advertising, it was radio. Anytime I got on the radio, anytime my competitor got on the radio, my business did well. That was just the way that it worked. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm at. I haven't quite figured out what will work well and make this effective. So I'm going to try the suggestions from last week and this week, and then maybe I'll have something better to report soon.
Well, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's
I'm envious of you right now. I'm experiencing one of the deadly sins right now.
Uh-oh. We all know that leads to murder. No.
Envy. I think it's awesome that you got your list up that fast. I mean, that's really cool.
It is cool.
And I just want to be able to do that too.
I am thrilled. I'm so excited because I'm actually seeing a lot of people dropping off the end of the automated on-ramping sequence right now. I'm seeing people kind of unsubscribe when they get to the point at which they get my invitation to join my Secret Bears, kind of readers group,
right.
And then they'll get the questionnaire. And I'm seeing people unsubscribe, and I'm like, well, you know what? If you get the invitation to be a Secret Bear and you get the questionnaire at the end that is asking you, what do you like, what don't you like, blah, 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 I'm trying to learn about you, and you feel compelled to drop out of the list, I didn't want you anyway. So people are kind of self-selecting to opt out, and new people are coming in all the time. So in a way, there was a time when I'd see one single person drop off the list, and I'd be like, oh, no, I lost the person. And now I'm like, okay, I guess you weren't part of where I'm going anyway, because this is the direction I'm going. So I can't worry about that.
Here's the thing, though. I was just reading an email right before this show, and I didn't finish the email, but the basic gist of it was about it was book tools marketing. Anyway, they were talking about email lists and the types of emails that you can send out. It made me think about this auto sequence that you and I both have for our things. Maybe we don't have enough in the auto sequence, so maybe there needs to be more emails after those steps. So like an email that what their point was, if you're a fiction writer, these people sign up for your list because they like what you write. They like the way that you write. So in your emails, maybe add, one short story or a link to a this or a link to that, a character profile or whatever as your subsequent emails after you've done the work to get them on your list and maybe in your Secret Bears, or in my case, my shadow team or whatever. These are the emails that come next so that you're still touching base with these people. They're getting something. And then maybe those emails come out less frequently than what happened in the ramp up. You know what I mean?
Oh,
so
absolutely.
That's what I was thinking after I read that email. Is that I think I need to have more emails in my sequence. I think there's only 7, maybe 8 in the initial sequence, because I think I ended it with the shadow team thing, because I went back and did what you did with your Secret Bears thing. I went and tweaked my email for that. But I do think there needs to be more after that, and I've wondered that. And now I see that's what's happening with you. You're having some people that are dropping off, but maybe they're dropping off because they don't know where to go or what to do next.
Oh, there's no question. That's exactly what's happening. So my intention by setting, so I had a suggestion from someone, which I thought was really, really smart. His on-ramping sequence, he set it up very specifically. I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he set it up where he had picked a day of the week where he was going to send emails. And in his on-ramp, his welcome email, he says right from the very start, hey, you're going to hear from me on Thursdays. I'm going to, kind of whatever. I'll be letting you know what's going on Thursdays. And I wrote back and I said, well, that's very interesting that you explicitly pick Thursday. I think people, Joe, I'm just going to talk rather than type. Yeah, I'm pretty sure people know why I write what I write. It certainly is explicitly stated in all of my books, but we talk about it a lot too. In any case, long story short, he's like, look, I wanted to make an appointment. You can kind of think of it as an appointment-based engagement with the audience. And so he picked the Thursdays. And so I went back and made mine on Tuesdays. And my intention has always been that people go through the on-ramping thing, and then Tuesdays I put up my new blog posts. Or if I have some article that I think is particularly interesting, I send that off to my list on Tuesdays. That's why I designed my list with you're going to get every new step. You're going to get the new updates, new content marketing pieces, and all the rest of the type of stuff on Tuesdays, so that then I could segue into my blog stuff or or marketing updates or Secret Bear stuff or whatever should come on Tuesdays. I just haven't had a chance to get to that yet. I just haven't had a chance to.
I want to make sure I understand. because I had this question when I was setting up my auto sequence and I never came back around to it. So when you set up your auto sequence, you population people, it's it goes out today. Someone signs up today, they get this email right away, boom. And then 3 days later, they get another email. After they've opened, I set mine up so that after they've clicked and opened the first one, the next one goes out. I think it's 3 days later. And then the next one, after they've clicked and opened that one, gets opened, I think it's 6 days later, 5 days later, maybe it's 5 days later. And then at some point, it's a 2-week window between the last one that they got, as you go further in your sequence, a 2-week window, like 14 days or something.
You're talking about your sequence. You're talking about your sequence, right?
Yeah, mine does that. Is that what you're doing, or are you, because I read somewhere about the whole send it out on a specific day thing, but I wasn't sure how you did that in an auto sequence when you want them to open and click and get them in a certain order. Or are you saying after they get that initial sequence, then you're sending another auto sequence that always goes out on a specific day?
So my onboard sequence, the first email goes out right away. As soon as you sign up, you get the first email saying, "Hey, welcome aboard. So glad you're here. Blah, 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 whatever. You're going to hear from me on Tuesdays." And then the next email goes out on the next Tuesday that occurs. The next Tuesday, you're going to get the next email in my onboarding sequence. And then, a week later or 2 weeks later, whatever it is, you're going to get another email from me. So my onboarding sequence only ever happens on Tuesdays.
Where do I go to make that happen? We're talking about Mailchimp for everybody who's not clear where we're at. We both use Mailchimp. Where do I go in Mailchimp to make sure that, because that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want it to be like every 5 days, every 7 days. I actually wanted it to be on a specific day every time through that sequence. So where do I go to do that?
You're going to go, hang on, let me just log into Mailchimp and I'll tell you.
He's going to look it up for me. He's a research person, just so you know. He's going to make sure that I have the right answer. I appreciate that about Hardy. So while he does that, does anybody have any questions? So Joe, you asked, and I answered in the chat, you asked whether or not people know why we write. And I know that Hardy does this because I've read his onboarding sequence and I do it. In my first email, I'm letting people know why I write and who I kind of like reading, that sort of thing, because I write Simply Scandalous Mystery Thrillers. And I love Janet Ivanovich's books. I've read all of her Bounty Hunter series, except for the very most recent one that just came out, and I think it was November. Came out. I haven't gotten that one yet. Mostly because my mother also reads these books, so I wait for her to buy the book and then give it to me. Because honestly, that's usually how it works. So she gives me the books, and we share things that way. But I also love Marcia Moeller, and I used to read Cornwell. I don't anymore, but I used to. She got a little bit too graphic in some ways for me, and I read at night. Read fiction at night, so I can't read that at night. It stays in my head too much, and I have weird, wacky dreams, and I don't like that. So yeah, people I think do know that, and I haven't had a lot of people drop from my list. I also don't have a very large list, which is why we spent time talking about the Facebook ads and stuff, because I was trying to grow my list, and it hasn't been very effective for me because I haven't been able to really hone in on my creative and my ad copy very well. And so Hardy's been helping me figure some of that stuff out. Did you find it?
I did. I am looking at my automation sequence on Mailchimp right now. Okay, so my welcome email goes out right away. And so the sending parameters are every day, all day, and then the next email, it will go it'll wait at least 1 day, and it wants to send on Tuesdays between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. So if I understand MailChimp's parameters correctly, what that means is if you get your welcome email on a Monday, then you could conceivably get the next email from me on that Tuesday. But whatever other day it falls on, like let's say if you get it on a Wednesday or Saturday or something like that, you're not going to get the second email until the next valid Tuesday between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Pacific. So boom, the second email comes out. And then after that, each of the other emails has a 1 week delay. And the place where that is set is, I set it down at if you open the individual email, and you click on scheduling and segmentation. All right, so you open the individual email, and there's a series of, if you want to call them tabs across the bottom. There's setup, template. Can you see me, by the way? I'm not on the blank page. So there's setup, template, design, and then scheduling and segmentation. Under the last tab, scheduling and segmentation, there's a drop-down menu. It says, on what days should this email be sent? It's the very first question that it asks. So that would be where you pick the day that you want to send on. And then, only send in, between certain working hours, or, as soon as possible on that day, whatever you like. So you're setting that in the scheduling and segmentation tabs underneath the individual emails. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you said you do that after the second email, right? So the first email goes out automatically. The second email, the second email goes out on a Tuesday.
Yes.
And then there's a week delay between every email. After the second email, there's a week delay.
Correct.
Is there somewhere where I'm supposed to set that up, the week delay thing?
It's in each email. So you basically tell each email when it's allowed to be sent. In each email, you're going to go into the scheduling and segmentation.
Okay.
And
I'm doing this today.
Okay. That's cool.
I'm going to work on it. Because I knew I had the question, and I'm like, I forgot all about it until we were just talking about it. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out Mailchimp, everybody. I like it. I'm just still trying to figure it out. That's the long and short of that. But I think I am going to take the advice of the email that I read earlier today about adding more to the sequence, so that people have something coming out from me, because I just need to make it easier for myself.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got content that you can put in there, I think that's perfectly valid. I actually see a couple of people out there who just seem to revel in their email communications with their list. There's one author that I'm following. I've read his stuff. His name, I'm actually going into my email here. The author is, let's see, what's his name?
Some of these people are really good at their stuff. I will say that.
Oh my goodness!
Some of them make them too long. Some of them make them too long for me, and I'm not reading this. But some have it really down to a science and an art, really. Their email communication.
Well, there are definitely some people who, like the stuff is so long that it's kind of, it just sort of wears me down. I'm like, okay, what do you want me to know? Like, just say it, man. Just say it.
I know I'm a bottom line person. So if you're actually just trying to sell me something, do that up front. Bottom line. Just tell me what you wanted from me. Not everybody's like that. I know.
J.M. Guillen, Guillen, Legitimancer is his. Excuse me. He just seems to really enjoy sending emails all the time. I mean, I get emails from him probably every day. Just kind of what's on his mind, little interesting thoughts, little snippets, or, isn't this a cool story thing or whatever. I get a lot of emails from that person. And I stay on the list because I read his book and I liked it. And so I'm like, okay, whatever. But I get so many, and I think he's one of the people in one of those Facebook groups that we're in, actually, Corey. I think he's in Selling for Authors, which is probably what. Okay. Anyway, I think he's in I think he's in Selling for Authors, or one of those groups with us. And thanks, Joe. Thanks for joining us. Anyway, he really seems to enjoy sending his emails and talking about stuff. So that it's interesting. I like. I stay on there. Anyway, he does it way better than I do. He's constantly sending all these updates and little story snippets and all the rest of that type of stuff. So,
seeing that, I wouldn't appreciate that. I would not want something like that every single day. I get so much email that would drive me nuts. I mean, already I get a ton of email. And I personally, as an author, he writes fiction, right? I wouldn't be able to do that. That would make me crazy myself. So you're right. He must really like it. And he must be really organized.
Well, he strikes me as the kind of person who, he even the writing that he's done, he's sort of creating this big complex world, this sort of horror / sci-fi world, with all these underlying principles.
Mm-hmm.
And he's written quite a lot of books about it. And my impression, strong impression, is that a lot of the people that he's friends with on Facebook, like they all enjoy this world that he's created. And so he's just kind of, he's rolling around in it with his fans and his friends. It's just like, oh, this is cool. And they make all sorts of inside jokes and, refer to things like, oh, how would this character react to that, or that, whatever. Anyway, it doesn't bother me because I kind of look at it and think, wow, that's a person who is really enjoying their personal brand. They've created a personal brand for themselves and they're just owning every inch of it, every minute of it,
Mm-hmm.
Kind of talking about their characters and saying, how do you think my character would handle themselves in the new Star Wars movie? And everybody's like, oh, the character would do this and that character could beat Kylo Ren in a fight, or, that's honestly the kind of things that they end up talking about. And it's fascinating. It's like, wow, you guys are just nerding out together and having so much fun doing it. It's hilarious. It's great. I think it's awesome. Sorry. Oh,
it is awesome to get to that level of engagement, though. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I would love to have that level of engagement. So he's definitely doing something right. Without
for sure. I mean, even if it's, and the fact of the matter is, going back to that point that I made about people dropping off the list, like if I looked at, I don't know, like if people, I suspect in his case, if people drop off the list, if they're not interested or they don't want to nerd out about the characters and the stories, okay, whatever. This is what we're doing. We're doing my world thing, and I love it, and my friends love it, and my fans love it. And if you don't love it, that's cool. See ya. See you later.
Not everyone wants to geek out about the same thing, and that's all right.
Exactly. And instead of geeking out about stuff that somebody else created, he's geeking out about the stuff that he created. And I think that's kind of genius in a way. It's really interesting. And other authors do the same thing. Like Honore Corder is an incredibly successful nonfiction author. She kind of owns the divorce books for women, for lack of a better way to kind of put it. That's the market that she's in. And, she clearly delights in, her series of books. She delights in the personal transformations that, that she went through, that kind of fuel the information that's in the book, and the people who, respond well to the information that she's presenting and, manage to get through their own divorces successfully because of that information. She delights in that as well. So that's, I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting thing to kind of struggle to get to that point and then be like, yeah, made it to the top of the mountain. We made it. Good stuff.
We'll get there eventually.
Amen.
It's going to take a little bit of time.
Your lips to God's ears.
Well, we are getting where we should wrap up because it's after 12 o'clock. And we have to keep track of time.
Absolutely.
We have to keep track of time. That, and I think the snow is slowing down and I have to go outside.
You just want to play with snow.
I have to go with ice. We even have snowshoes, the big, long snowshoes. We picked up a set somewhere along the way. We actually got a set for my niece who was going to school in Iowa, and it was going to be her first year, and we said, you might need these, and gave her some just as a joke, but ended up buying 2 sets. So I haven't even tried them yet. I can see how they work. Are they really effective or not? So yeah, that I geek out about things like that sometimes. It's true.
Well,
snow at some point.
So last thing I'll kind of float out there. So getting this problem solved for you is very interesting for me. Even interesting to the point where I'm tempted to just try to do it for you. So if
no, you can't do it for me. You can't.
Why
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
I appreciate it though. I've got to figure it out. That's the thing that's making me crazy. I've got to see if I can figure this out.
Because here's the thing. I mean, there's also this, and I think this is something to consider, right? There's an awful lot of authors who basically look at these problems and basically and come to the conclusion that they don't really want to or have the aptitude to solve those problems for themselves, so they just outsource it. They just pay somebody else to take it over for them and do it. I'm not suggesting you pay me to do it. I'm saying, just for practice purposes, I would do it because I like you, and to try to see if I can get better results. But I think that's also a worthwhile thing for people to think about, which is, look, if you're not having success making this work, you don't have to solve every problem yourself. You could consider outsourcing it. And so anyway, that might be something I would say to you, is that at this point, it's not coming intuitively to you and you're not necessarily feeling like you're making good traction, you might consider outsourcing. And your first outsourcing option could be your old pal Hardy, but there's other ways to do that too.
Well, I'm going to try all this stuff first. It's funny you bring it up because I actually did consider that. The whole, maybe somebody else can do this for me thing did cross my mind.
Yeah.
But the other side of it, I really want to see if I can do it. It's driving me nuts that I can't actually create this. So I'm not ready to give up yet, is the thing. So I've got to try these other things first. If then I'm not getting it, then I'll probably revisit it and say, maybe I need somebody else to do it. Because it's necessary. I know I need it, but I may not be the person who's supposed to do it. It's kind of like writing the blurbs for my books. I don't usually write the blurbs for my books. I have someone else write the blurbs for my book so that I don't, get caught up in that.
Yeah. So, well, you outsource the things that, that either you don't have time to do or not necessarily your natural thing. Like, neither one of us does our own cover design. Neither one of us, there's a lot of things that you outsource. And that's not, that's not shameful. That's just smart. So anyway, okay, that's all I wanted to say.
No worries. Well, enjoy your weather. I'm going to go outside and enjoy the snow at some point in the day here. I will be outside doing so. And it's going to be hot cocoa with, marshmallows and cream and I don't know, and maybe cookies.
Sounds fantastic.
Well, have a great week. Oh, next week I'm hoping I can talk to you about, while we're on the show, the Recordio app. I actually did that 2 weeks ago. I recorded Deadly Sins 2 for an audiobook, but I haven't heard back from them yet. So,
real quick, what was the name of that service that would pull up the reviewers again?
The reviewers, pull up the reviewers.
Remember you said that.
Right, that new thing.
Yeah. What was it called?
Yeah. Hold on. I have to go back in my notes. Debbie Drum. It was book review targeter.
Book review
targeter.
Okay.
Debbie Drum or Deborah Drum.
Okay. Full disclosure.
The woman's name who put that together.
Yes. Author Marketing Club's tool is busted right now. It does not successfully recover reviewers. Because based on our last conversation, I thought let's say, what the heck? I'm just going to go in there and see if I can get it to pull up some stuff. And it ain't working. So Jim Kukrow sent me an email saying that there was going to be some sort of an announcement about that. They're working on the tool. They're trying to fix the tool or something like that. So anyway, I don't know. I thought I'd poke around this Debbie Drum and see if their tool is currently working, it's worth more than paying for a tool that ain't working. So I would have to look at that and see what's going on.
For everybody, it's Book Review Targeter is the name of that tool that we're talking about, so that you can find it later. It costs don't let me misquote, $197 when I checked on it a couple weeks back. That would have been January 19th, 2016. It was $197 for that. Just so you know, it was pretty slick. The tool, just from looking at everything that you could do with it, I thought it was pretty neat. And it was just straightforward. You weren't getting a lot of extraneous stuff you didn't need. You were getting only the information you need in order to go forward to do the request for the reviews and things like that.
Fantastic.
So,
All right, cool.
Something to check out.
Absolutely.
So next week, hopefully I can talk about Recordio app.
Yeah, let's talk about Recordio. That sounds cool.
If they get back to me, then we'll talk about it.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
See you later.
See you later.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.